So you know yourself, sometimes you're having a really good day and you play great round after great round. However, next day might be terrible and you have troubles against enemies that you should be owning. This is a common issue even amongst pro players. This video is meant to show you a concept how to understand your true skill and how to maximize those days where you feel on point and minimize those bad days where you want to quit in rage. The concept of ABC game was first presented to me years ago, something called the Inchworm theory. I paid little attention to it back then, which I kind of regret right now, so I hope this video will not make you do the same mistake as me, because this was really a game changer of my career. Understanding this will guide you to be better in improving at consistent pace, accepting some things you can change, realizing where your true skill is, avoiding common mistakes when learning, dealing with the ups and downs of your skill, and suggesting to your own teammates how to overcome slumps. So before we take a look at the actual Inchworm, ask yourself a question. How good do you get when you play your best Counter-Strike? And how bad are you when you play at your worst? You probably come to an answer that it looks like a completely different player playing when you feel the game and when you don't. That means the gap between your best form, A game, and your worst form, C game, is too big. At your best, your mind is clear and you act intuitively. At your worst, you act instinctively and therefore you make mistakes. The middle ground, B game, requires thinking. That means you're not playing bad, but you aren't playing flawlessly either. This is also what occurs most frequently. You're performing somewhere in the middle most of the time. Everyone is different, but in my experience, for average player, 20-60-20 rule apply. So 20% of the time they play really bad and make too many mistakes. 60% is the middle ground, and 20% of the time they feel in the zone and carry the game. What we want to do right now is to shift those numbers into your favor so you play better more often than worse. So important to know this, we will never get rid of the C game. It is impossible to lower it to 0% no matter how hard you try. Even best players in the world, they have those games. And this is the proof that range exists. It exists everywhere in any sport and in any elite athlete. So it is important to be honest about the reality and accept it. What we can do is shift those numbers to something like 10, 65, 25, and it's really easy to do with a little bit of effort. So let me explain how. So first, let's talk about the grab and how to read it correctly. Right side represents your current peak when you are in the zone with a great mindset. It includes your sharpest aim, amazing communication, knowing all the nade lineups in the heat of the moment basically, and reading the game. But remember, you are not always going to hit nutty shots or read the game flawlessly. Sometimes you forget the lineup and sometimes your comms will be wrong. So these are the reasons you can't consider this game as your permanent skill set. So left side displays your worst, mistakes you shouldn't do but you still do it. Errors that happen when your mind goes blank. It needs to be noted as well that these periods can be avoided and are often linked to your weak mental performance. Often it's tied to lack of discipline, fear, anger, confidence issues, or bad environment you play in. So that means like constant fights in a team or arguments and etc. And the middle part, it shows everything in between, and this is your true skill. When you work on fundamentals like counter-strafing, nade usage, positioning, effective communication, dry running strats, etc., your B game becomes stronger, more solid, and more reliable, making you a consistent player. And the Inchworm concept applies when you look at how your range improves over time. Imagine the movement of an actual inchworm. So when you reach a new peak in your ability, the front end of your range takes a step forward. Your best just became better, which also means that your range has widened because the back end hasn't moved yet. The most efficient way to move forward, again, is to focus on the back end of your range and make improvements to your greatest weaknesses. By eliminating the worst part of your game, your bell curve takes a step forward from the back end, and now it's easier to take another step forward from the front. Now you understand the concept, you understand the question how, but let's talk about why. Why do we want to narrow the gap? And the answer is simple: to be more consistent player. So when the gap between your best and worst, your A game and C game, is too wide, the mind has too much to think about. And that prevents you from regularly getting into the zone and accessing intuition and to play your A game. When that gap is too narrow, your mind is clearer because there are fewer things you have to consider consciously in order to be competent. So the most common mistake I see in both, young and experienced players is that they like to ignore weaknesses. Constantly learning new things while ignoring and avoiding your weaknesses can cause huge inconsistencies. The problem is, it takes a lot of mental energy to think through all the new things you've learned, so you lose focus. There is dramatic drop-off in performance level. So when you're at your best, you're better than ever, but when it gets bad, it gets really, really bad. So to make matters worse, because performing well takes so much more mental energy, it will rarely happen. Also, mistakes, many of them basic, will show up completely out of nowhere. Most of the time you'll be bad, and as your poor form frustrates you, you will get even worse. Your confidence will drop, you'll become anxious and nervously watch your performance level drop, where you basically become a bot. And preventing this from actually happening is quite simple. You must stay focused on learning and correction. You must stay focused on learning the correction to your weaknesses until it is trained enough to the level of unconscious competence. More on this can be found in my video about the zone. Doing so keeps you humble, reminds you of your weaknesses, and is the most efficient way for you to improve. Now, this is a random post I saw on Instagram by Kerrigan from FaZe. It got me really thinking, and was one of those sparks that made me actually do this video in the first place. Because the concept is so unknown, even amongst pro players, that many players could benefit from this. In this post, it is clear that Kerrigan tries to define his ABC game as early as possible. During his routine morning walk, he is able to say how he feels and what mental state he is in. By realizing what is his shape for the day, he does not fight it, he accepts it as it is and tries to work around it. The main takeaway here is to understand that bad days will happen. They will happen a lot, and things out of your control will make it a bad day. Stuff like bad night's sleep, maybe having some health issues, being stuck in a traffic jam forever, coffee shop giving you wrong order, you name it. However mild it is in the bigger picture, it can cause you to drop out of the zone, and all you have to do is accept it and plan accordingly. Interesting to notice that this post was made on 12th of April. 1 month later, Kerrigan lifted the trophy at Antwerp Major as his first international squad to do so. Clearly, he has to know something about improvement and learning. Let's learn from the best. So that's it for the video. If you liked it, hit the like, subscribe button, whatever you like. If you enjoyed the video, it would really appreciate and mean a lot to me, so I can continue doing these. And yeah, if you like the topic that we've discussed, you will probably like these videos around me, so check them out. And see you soon. Bye bye.